Alright, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into how one of history's most polarizing philosophers, Friedrich Nietzsche, proposed a completely radical cure for the unavoidable reality of human suffering. We're going to unpack a concept that honestly sounds incredibly intimidating at first, but is actually one of the most profound psychological tools ever developed for dealing with the sheer weight of existence.
Cultural anthropologist Ernest Becker perfectly sets up the brutal stakes of our existence right here to hook us in. It's a super heavy quote, I know, but it forces us to look at reality without any of those comforting filters. Nietzsche recognized this exact same fundamental problem. Life, by its very nature, involves pain, conflict, and ultimately death. And, well, before we can look at Nietzsche's cure, we absolutely have to face the disease.
So, Section 1, the problem of suffering, facing reality. To understand the cure, we first have to deeply understand the terrifying problem we're trying to solve.
Early on, Nietzsche was heavily influenced by the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer realized that the universe is essentially driven by this blind, creative life force. Think of it like a massive, rushing river of energy. This energy pours into individual organisms, into you, me, the animals, the plants. He called this being trapped in the principle of individuation. Imagine a single ocean wave thinking it's entirely separate from the rest of the ocean. We are all just fragile little vessels holding a piece of this immense force, desperately trying to keep ourselves going. And because we're finite and resources are limited, our survival inherently demands conflict with others. It's a world where individuals exist at the expense of others, and eventually, every single one of us faces the terror of our own end.
Which brings us to Section 2, the veil of illusion, hiding from reality. Let's look at how humanity has historically built psychological coping mechanisms to avoid looking directly at this nightmare. Because, let's be honest, steering into that rushing, chaotic river of existence is utterly exhausting.
Throughout history, folks like theologians and metaphysicians have acted as what Nietzsche jokingly called veil makers. They took the terrifying reality of life and just threw a comforting veil over it. They invented a true world behind this apparent one, an afterlife, a realm of perfect forms, some grand cosmic plan where justice ultimately prevails. But Nietzsche argued that doing this actually breeds a hatred for the real world. It makes us despise the messy, painful reality in favor of a shining fantasy. The Nietzschean view, on the flip side, demands we tear down that veil. It demands we embrace actuality, the apparent world exactly as it is, without needing to justify it morally.
So here's the crucial point. Once those comforting illusions of religion and Platonism are torn away, which, by the way, is exactly what Nietzsche meant by his famous and often totally misunderstood slogan, "God is dead," we are left completely exposed. The veil is ripped beyond repair by modern science and secularism. We're left staring into the abyss of a completely indifferent universe, facing the terrifying prospect of nihilism, the idea that there's no script, no grand cosmic plan to justify our suffering. If there's no inherent purpose handed down to us, how on earth do we keep going without falling into total despair?
Enter Section 3, the cure, Amor Fati, a radical medicine. Nietzsche wasn't just a critic. He really saw himself as a physician of culture who possessed a profound yet super challenging medicine.
To cure our revulsion of life, Nietzsche offers Amor Fati, which literally translates to love of fate. Now listen closely, because this isn't just some passive, stoic resignation where you grit your teeth and endure a miserable situation. No, it is an active, passionate embrace of the world exactly as it is. It means wanting absolutely nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Think of it like riding a terrifying roller coaster. Passive acceptance is closing your eyes, gripping the safety bar, and just waiting for it to be over. Amor Fati is throwing your hands in the air, feeling the wind in your face, and loving every single terrifying, stomach-dropping plunge because it's part of the ride.
To explain this interconnectedness without getting bogged down in philosophy jargon, Nietzsche uses this beautiful analogy found in his notebooks. He suggests that if your soul has trembled with happiness and sounded like a harp string just once, well, all eternity of the past was needed to produce that single event. You simply can't isolate the good parts of your life from the bad ones. The universe is a massively tangled web. If you cherish a beautiful moment with a loved one today, you have to fiercely love the entire chaotic, painful, and bloody history of the universe that led precisely to that moment. You cannot affirm the joyous note without affirming the tension that strung the harp in the first place. Through his literary prophet Zarathustra, Nietzsche breaks down this ultimate psychological shift. Think about it. Our greatest source of bitterness is often the unchangeable past, that heavy "it was." We feel regret, we feel a deep sense of injustice, and we develop the spirit of revenge against time itself because we literally can't change what happened to us.
Nietzsche says the only way to redemption is a radical psychological shift, transforming that bitter "it was" into a triumphant "thus I willed it." You take total ownership of your past. You decide that every mistake, every heartbreak, every trauma was a totally necessary step to forge you into who you are right now.
Moving to Section 4, the ultimate time loop, eternal recurrence. This brings us to the ultimate stress test to discover if you truly possess a love of fate.
Seriously, I want you to ask yourself right now, could you look at everything tragic, ugly, and painful that has ever happened to you? Look at all the suffering in the world and boldly declare, "I wanted this." It's an incredibly demanding proposition. It asks us to stop viewing ourselves as victims of circumstance and instead view ourselves as the ultimate authors of our own destiny, even retroactively.
Nietzsche called this his abysmal thought, eternal recurrence. Imagine your life is a movie, and when you die, the universe simply hits replay forever. Every pain, every joy, without a single alteration. Every spider on the wall, every beautiful moonlight, every moment of sheer boredom. Would you throw yourself down and curse the demon who told you this? Or would you say, "You are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine"? Eternal recurrence challenges you to live your life today in such a way that you would happily hit replay on it for all eternity.
In his writings, Zarathustra discovers that to truly marry life, to really affirm your existence, you have to accept all of it. You can't just cherry pick. You must embrace the dancing star of high creativity and joy, but you must equally embrace what he calls the last man, the parts of humanity and the parts of ourselves that just want to binge-watch TV on the couch and avoid all hardship. You have to accept the unbearable chaos right alongside the beauty. True affirmation is a package deal.
Okay, Section 5, Courage in the Chaos, Grounded Alternative. Let's bring this soaring philosophy back down to earth and see what we can actually take away from it.
We really have to acknowledge a major critique here, highlighted by scholar Van Harvey. I mean, let's be real. It is relatively easy for someone sitting in a comfortable, peaceful culture to affirm their moments of joy and say they love their fate. But isn't it an incredibly severe, almost elitist demand when confronted with sheer horror? Think of a bound slave enduring the horrors of a slave ship. To demand that they look at their horrific suffering and say, "Thus I willed it," seems not just impossible, but deeply offensive. It really highlights a potential limitation in applying Nietzsche's ultimate test universally.
So for those of us who feel that total Amor Fati might just be out of reach, who can't quite bring ourselves to bless every single tragedy, Ernest Becker offers this deeply grounded alternative. Rather than trying to achieve a godlike affirmation of literally everything, we can simply find the courage to face the chaos honestly. We can be open to life and, as Becker says, fashion something of value, whether it's art, a relationship, or just our own character, and humbly drop it into the confusion. We make an offering of it to the life force.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought and challenge you to consider what it truly means to affirm your own existence. Whether you embrace Nietzsche's radical love of fate or Becker's humble offering to the chaos, the question remains. If you had to hit replay on your exact life for eternity, starting right now, what offering would you fashion for the chaos today?